Lovely to see. So just before you start, just to let you know, the University of Gibraltar has a stand just over there, towards your right, towards the back. My colleague Yvonne is over there, and the reason we're here today, we normally come and support Startup Grind. We're particularly thrilled that it's still reaching out to new heights, and we have two relevant courses for yourselves to consider. One is the Diploma of Competence in Financial Services. It's a professional diploma, it's level 5, it's a second-year degree equivalent, and we have the Certificate of Insurance, a fast-track version, starting in September, both starting in September. So if you wish to find a bit more information, just hop along, we'll be there waiting for you. That's quick, I think, and other than that, thank you very much.
Thank you both. Okay, so as Mark said, I'm Denise Matthews. Just welcome everybody. You know it's a very warm day. I hope the air conditioner is going to kick in soon before we all get sweaty here. But I wanted to say a quick thank you to our panelists, John Harris, Lorraine Povedano, Erica Pozo, and Nicholas Pecino for absolutely jumping on board, because it's always crazy. We do events every month and I'm always trying to find the best topics, and I think tonight we managed that. We're going to be starting with the fact that we're supporting the newly launched Women in Insurance Network, and Erica, Lorraine, they are steering committee founders. So I'm going to start asking you a couple of questions about why WIN. What inspired the creation of the Women's Insurance Network in Gibraltar? And can you elaborate the specific challenges, gaps in the industry that led for you to recognize that there was a need for a dedicated group, and the focus being on empowering and supporting women in the insurance sector?
Okay, Denise, so first and foremost, I'd like to really thank you for organizing this panel today.
My pleasure.
And on behalf of the industry as well, this is not the first panel of insurance that you're holding, so on behalf of the industry, we'd like to thank you and Startup Grind for promoting insurance, promoting the insurance industry, and promoting insurance startups generally, so thank you very much. Yes, so obviously, as you know, the insurance sector is such a big, vital pillar of our economy, and it's definitely an industry that there is still a lot of opportunities to be looked into, and obviously it is a growing industry, and it is continuing to grow with the good work that the Gibraltar Finance Centre is doing. So just going back to the reason why we're here today, which is obviously the formation of the Women's Insurance Network, I'd just like to obviously bring you back to the nexus of this group. So really the formation of this was actually long in time a thought of us, and it had been a thought that we wanted to really set this up for a very long time. And as you know, women's networks are generally on the rise globally, but it really wasn't until I attended the Gibraltar Day in London at the insurance event that I was approached by one of the keynote speakers who approached me to literally highlight the fact that there were very few women in attendance that day, and that obviously this, in their words, and I quote, had to be called out. So it wasn't really until that point that I was really excited to really come back into Gibraltar and set this group up more formally. And originally, you know, I roped in a few old colleagues of mine, and jointly our co-founders, who included Lorraine, who has been pivotal and instrumental in this project, and also Lisa Casemore and Charlotte Kirkby both from Aon and Admiral respectively, who definitely deserve the recognition here. We jointly co-founded this mission.
Fantastic. So I think over to you, Lorraine. By the way, everybody, this is about an interactive conversation. So anytime anyone wants to ask anything, just shoot your hand up. We're here to have a very good and impassioned discussion. But over to you, Lorraine. How do you see WIN playing a crucial role in empowering women and to achieve their goals within the industry? And what specific objectives do you hope to achieve through the platform?
Yeah, thank you, Denise. I mean, in terms of the Women's Insurance Network, when we first met, we established that gender parity is still quite an issue in insurance and in the insurance industry worldwide. There's a study by McKinsey. They run annual studies, and it was found that 57% of women worked in the insurance industry, but then in top level senior roles, that level dropped to around 20% or even less. So of course that gender parity, gender equality, we're not going to talk about the gender pay gap right now, that's for another time. But you know, certainly we felt that in Gibraltar alone there's over 500 people that work in the insurance industry, and we needed to call it out. We needed to give women a voice. We felt that there was a need for a networking association, and in terms of our objectives, we feel that sponsor initiatives like sponsorships oh my God,
So what's probably worth noting is that what we wanted to do is really create not a machine gun effect of trying to tackle global and national gender inequalities, but rather a sniper effect. And what we really wanted to create was a forum and a vehicle for the industry to use so that we can collaborate and work collectively to actually have these discussions and work together as a collective to tackle this.
Yeah, so in terms of that targeted approach, we would like to start from the grassroots. We would like to target schools, university school leavers, and speak to the industry, go into the industries and speak to teams of issues that affect women within the industry, so that we can really have a collaborative approach. And when we talk about collaborative approach, work with the Gibraltar Insurance Association, the Gibraltar Insurance Institute, because again, through the regulatory aspect and the educational and training aspect, we can really upskill the marketplace and develop as a jurisdiction.
So it's essential, but I just want to point out that when you mentioned the pay gap, I heard some rumblings, and I feel like that is probably one of the things that you will at some point have to tackle as a priority. And the good thing about Gibraltar is that when there are issues to tackle, you can actually tackle them at some speed. One of the reasons I bring men on panels where we talk about women is fundamentally because I don't want to have conversations about women to other women. So I am just going to jump ahead of the conversation that we plan to have and say, Nicholas and John, what is your opinion on women within the insurance industry and the disparity there? And feel free. John, do you want to start?
Well, I think it's a really interesting point that you're making there, but if I look at Rovers, for example, the vast majority of the workforce in Rovers is female.
Yep.
So I'm actually in the minority in our office. So if I'm trying to count up, there's probably 4 or 5 out of almost 20 people who are male. So
how many are in senior level positions, as in board level?
So at board level we have 1 out of 4 at board level currently. So that's a fair point. But there's been quite an interesting turnover of staff at the current time. So, but it's a fair point. But there is, a significant number of women there. But it's a fair point, and it's worth noting.
Nicholas?
I think there's remarkable women in the insurance industry in Gib. If I go back to my first job at Maspro, the MD was female, and she brought me into the industry. So I think she was my role model, a good mentor, and there was also another female colleague in that particular company or group of companies that was in a board level position. If I look at my company now, I co-founded Senate about 6 years ago. There's 3 of us on the board which are male, but we were essentially 3 friends or 3 family friends with different skill sets, and we happen to be male. The 4th person that's joined the board is female, and I think there are not enough women. And there's something about the insurance industry, and one of the other things that I do apart from work for Senate is I collaborate with EDEC on an insurance training scheme, and I was discussing this earlier with a female colleague who's at senior level in insurance, and she's also remarkable. And
Is that Elizabeth?
Elizabeth.
So I'm just going to make a little interruption here because I just heard this tonight. Elizabeth and her colleagues who are here have set up their own insurance brokerage, and it's a fully female business. So I think that deserves a round of applause.
So what I was saying is that I run this course with EDEC, and we find placements for aspiring professionals in the industry. It's the third year running, and there's always a lack of female candidates. And we always sort of take on about 6 to 8. And last year there was one female, and she was one of the top candidates. The year before we had started with 8. There was 2 female, and the top candidate was female. This year we have 7 candidates. There's only one woman, 1 female. So there is something with the insurance industry that I don't know. And I think this network win is a good platform for women or girls in school to develop and see role models.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with you there, Nick. Certainly, you know, women have got a lot to contribute in the industry in terms of knowledge, the technical knowledge as well. And it's, if you give the women the platform,
Yeah.
you know, the passion and the vision is there. So certainly it is a space for them to strive and develop as well.
I think, Catherine, you wanted to add something.
Thank you. Thanks, Denise. Hi, I'm Catherine Morgan from Marsh Panel Insurance. It was a question, really. So there is some research that shows that women tend to apply for roles if they feel confident that they can tick all the boxes, where men tend to apply for roles if they can tick maybe 1 or 2 out of 10. And what do you think the insurance industry could do?
Thank you, Catherine.
Just research. But what do you think the insurance industry could do? I mean, I think it's great that your courses obviously are open to women and the women are doing really well. But do you think maybe you need to go back a step and find the women who haven't got the confidence to even apply? And what do you think the insurance industry could do to encourage those women?
You put me on the spot there.
What my thoughts is probably that what we have done with WIN is really mobilize the industry. Definitely we've mobilized all the women in the industry, and we've definitely mobilized a lot of the senior practitioners. And what is really important is that what we have managed to do is really generate that discussion. And the fact is that this had not been talked about as a collective within the industry. So nothing was really being done. There was a lot of work, good work being done individually by companies who obviously have their CSR initiatives, but as a collective, as an association and as an industry, there was very, very little being done and spoken about.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of aspects to that, but we're going to put this conversation on hold, and we'll come back to all of the diversity and win, obviously, throughout the conversation. But I wanted to go to you, John, because, you know, a big part of what we do, and there is a lot of young people here that we've tried to engage with more this year, specifically because we feel like we can't just preach to the choir. Everybody who, you know, a lot of people who come to the events feel the same way about things, so we want to go a little bit more grassroots. So I want to talk about startups and specifically your role in Rovers, how you provide startups with the support and the guidance from the outset, the feasibility analysis, concept development to full turnkey insurance setup and licensing. So there you go, just a little question.
Okay, it's quite a big question really, but so first of all, I mean, my role in Rovers is as the Group Business Development Director, so I'm part of the executive management team for the wider Rovers Group. We operate out of Guernsey and Gibraltar. Startups don't come along in the insurance company space very often in Gibraltar. When they do come along, they're actually quite complex projects to work on, but they do bring opportunities for the wider Gibraltar space and economy. So what we generally do is we provide consulting and outsourced management services to these firms. The process is quite a long process, but it's quite a complex process, and it kind of runs in phases. The first phase is generally where somebody comes to us with an idea or a plan, or they think they've got a plan and a good idea. So they normally will have a conversation with us, and that conversation goes one of two ways. That conversation can be they've got a really good plan and a great idea, so we have this kind of viability discussion with them where we kind of investigate whether they've got the right ingredients and the right plan and the kind of the wherewithal, maybe some money behind them, which could lead them to have the right sort of things in place to enable them to go through this journey of making an application, having a proper plan, which could lead them to being authorised eventually as an insurance company. The second phase is really, if that viability discussion kind of stacks up, is we'll start them on the process of an application. That kind of kicks off with what we call a pre-application phase, where we'll start to kind of build out what that plan really looks like. We'll go and have a good discussion, which we'll call a pre-application meeting, with some materials we'll prepare with them, and go and talk to our friends at the GFSC with those kind of materials. We'll have a grown-up discussion with the authorization team at the FSC. The FSC will then come back and say, actually, here are a few things you really need to focus on if we're going to take this down the route of a formal application. It's a really good sort of process that the FSC have developed to help the applicant and us as insurance managers focus on things that could be showstoppers or things that need to be developed to enable that startup to really focus their mind on whether they want to carry on or they want to put the effort into fixing those things to help their application be successful. We then do some more work to kind of fix those things, or we stop and come back and maybe try another day. If we get those things fixed, we come back and have a second pre-application meeting. Having fixed all those things, the FSC then say, okay, we like those things, it's probably, we'll give you a bit more feedback, and if that feedback is resolved, we'll go in and put a proper application in. That application then goes through a process, and hopefully permissions are granted and the firm can start to trade.
Fabulous. So with that, I'm going to go over to an actual founder, Nicholas. So share a little bit about your experience in setting up Senate Insurance Brokers. What were the challenges that you faced and how did you overcome them?
The challenges from the application stage?
Well, just from setting up, finding your gap in the market, building your business plan, the whole process in general.
Okay, so I co-founded Senate Insurance Brokers about 6 years ago, and we had a very specific business idea, a vision, I guess a very specific business model, and I think that was the key to the success of our business. 3 partners with different skill sets. It was the guy with the insurance experience, we had a chartered accountant, and someone with legal background. I thought that was the basis for a really good team. Perhaps if I would have gone at it alone, it wouldn't have been as easy. So the application process is tough, but we've got a very good regulator, and we went through a process of application for about 3 to 6 months, and that went quite smoothly. Again, I think the advice for any startup I would say is like stick to your business model, have faith in it. Our business model is sort of mid to high premium corporate clients rather than sort of servicing the whole variety of clients which you tend to see in insurance, just because we felt that corporate clients need something different to retail clients. And if you start doing retail business, although it complements your earnings, you're doing the cross-selling, it sort of sucks your energy away from what you really want to do. So I think stick to your business model, stick to that, believe in it, and slowly the business will come into place. I think the first real challenge we faced was, once we started growing, was recruiting, because it's part of the discussion point today that there's a lack of talent or lack of people in the insurance industry in Chubb. And this is why we need to engage women, because it's a collaborative effort. So we want people to join the industry and we need the whole talent pool. And my advice on that would be to be patient and don't just hire someone when you're involved at a startup. You need someone with broad knowledge. It's not a specific job. You'll have a main job, but you'll have to do different areas, whether it's underwriting, brokering, or claims. So you need someone, with good experience, and it's worth waiting for the right person rather than sort of rushing it.
Magnificent. And also I'll come back to this training thing because you're doing something amazing and I want to talk about that with the training. Erica, I just wanted to come to you with your role in advising insurance startups in setting up in Gibraltar. What's your advice?
Okay, so we operate in a highly regulated industry, obviously, and what my advice would be for a startup would be really to engage at a very, very early stage with the regulator, just to discuss with them what your plans are, what your business model is starting to look like. I think that early stage engagement with the regulator is absolutely vital to ensure a smooth transition in the insurance application. And what is also very useful as well is if you engage with some reputable insurance managers such as Robus, who can obviously hold your hand throughout your application process and take it through from start to finish. I think that would put you in a very strong position.
Thank you for the push.
The plug.
Appreciate
Thank you for the
that.
plug. Now, I think one of the things that I identified since doing the insurance event with virtually a couple of years ago is that we just don't talk about the industry enough and how interesting it actually is and how much it generates for Gibraltar as a jurisdiction. And I like to make noise, so it's coming, I promise. So Lorraine, I wanted to talk about your pivotal role in creating the educational content for the Diploma in Financial Services at the university. I think there's another coming, as Nadine mentioned. Any information you need, Nadine and Yvonne are here. How do you envision the program contributing to the development of future insurance professionals, and what impact do you hope it will have on the talent pipeline?
Okay, so just to give everybody a little bit of background on my role at the university and the financial services diploma itself. So I was there at the very beginning when the university were making those initial meetings and having those initial conversations with industry participants, and I did help on putting together the content for the insurance unit, so the insurance module itself. So the financial services diploma, it's only in its first year. This is the first cohort that they've had. I think there's been 14 students from a wide range of industry areas, and it's been very well supported by industry associations. But in terms of the exposure to students, really the focus is, first of all, that it's endorsed by the financial services, the GFSC, so they encourage industry partners to send their students, send employees to go and undertake this course. And of course, like with anything really, the more knowledge you have, knowledge is key to success, isn't it? So really it's been a testament to the first year's cohort of students. They've actually got their graduation ceremony tomorrow, which is fantastic. But within that, and you're probably one of the first ones to know, and I don't know if I'm allowed to say it, but I had a little conversation with Nadine last week, and she had mentioned that, as a result of employees having gone through the diploma in financial services, they've already seen 2 promotions within that cohort. So it certainly is a testament that educating yourself and training will grow those skill sets and advance in your career. And of course, it's key to the reputation of the jurisdiction.
Yeah. So Nicholas, I wanted to come back to you talking on the training topic.
On the training.
Yes, tell us about what you do with training university and school leavers, what you prepare them for, and actually now that you have a network in front of you, how can people better support the work that you're doing?
Okay, so following on something that Erica was saying before, that the insurance industry in Gib is vital for our economy, I would also say that it's the silent pillar of the Gibraltar economy. So few people or few school leavers go to university with the idea of going into the insurance industry. And this is one of the reasons why, obviously from the challenges I faced in recruitment with my company, in pitching an idea to EDEC and developing this training scheme. So what I do with the training scheme is that I help aspiring professionals, both school leavers and university leavers, into placements with insurance companies. So the placement is sponsored by EDEC, and the sponsoring organization could be an insurance manager or insurance company or an insurance broker like myself. Take them on for 11 months, but they get time off to study. So they get half a day off every week, and I mentor them through their examination process. We sit down, I push them, not too much. We've got one of the candidates here today.
Doing very well.
Yes, put your hand up, say hello. Thank you for being here.
So part of the reason we've got this is it is to show people there's a path into insurance, because as a business owner, you do want to hire people with experience, and you've got the opportunity to hire a trainee who's on a training course with the sponsorship from the government and with a path through the qualifications. Then you'll be a bit more enticed to support the local talent. And the objective of the training scheme is twofold: is to develop talent and to give people a route into the industry. So it's 3 years, it's the 3rd year running, so yeah, it's doing quite well so far.
Nicholas does this in his spare time, so I thought it was worth mentioning. Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's a great initiative.
So back to you, John. We're going to talk a little bit more about what do you feel are the key trends and emerging technologies that are reshaping the insurance industry?
That's a really interesting question. I mean, since the pandemic, where we all were locked away, we've seen a great emergence in insurtech companies coming to the fore. I was at the BIBA conference last week. Was it last week or the week before in Manchester? There are all these big names, the AXAs, the RSAs, all the familiar names are all that we've seen for many years. But then there's these kind of weird and wonderful names cropping up that you've weird spellings of different words that use no vowels, but wonderful names. But these are firms that are embracing technology to try and do things differently. You're seeing firms using digital platforms for changing customer experiences, and they're firms that are trying to partner with some of the big names to try and create different ways of manipulating, but using customer data to help people price, to assess risks differently, to try and drive better outcomes for customers, but also to produce better outcomes from an underwriting perspective as well. So we're seeing more and more of this. In fact, I was just reading my daily insurance post article email, which just demonstrates the sort of nerd I am. And I had a couple of just headlines today. Could technology cause more self-insurance? How AI is shaping the future of insurance. They're even saying that insurance is going to die in its traditional form. So we're seeing more and more of this coming up on a daily basis. I get calls almost weekly from different firms saying, we'd like to try and do something in the insurance space. We want to deploy some capital to do things differently. Half the time these are pretty harebrained ideas, thinking they could set up some sort of insurance company, but there are more and more firms coming to the market to try and do things differently. So I think this is not going to stop. The Internet of Things, where people are deploying gadgets to capture data, pay as you go in the motor market, fridges that capture people's behaviour. There are more and more of these companies coming up on a regular basis. There is an industry around events for insurtech companies. So just watch this space. I think we'll see more and more of it.
I know, but I'm going to stay with you for a minute because you've just successfully advised a startup that uses technology in their customer services model through the licensing process. Do you think that there is potential for more coming to Gibraltar?
I think in terms of new opportunities in Gibraltar, absolutely, and I can tell you that we're working on opportunities as we speak. They're in different phases of the licensing process. As I said, I was at Biba last week, and even there, I've got a couple of opportunities for, let's call them insurtech businesses, who have a slightly different way of doing business. The critical thing to remember is if they are coming here to authorise an insurance company, they're coming to authorise an insurance company. So all this innovation is really important and it's great and we encourage it, but let's remember they're coming to authorise an insurance company, so they have to do that within scope of the regulations and the laws and the requirements of the FSC and the regulator. But any of that innovation has to be good for the insurance company, but ultimately good for the end consumer.
Fantastic. So Erica, over to you at this point. So you're the director of Kroll Global Advisory, and as a director within the restructuring consulting team at Kroll, how do you see the landscape of the insurance industry evolving in terms of solvency requirements and restructuring?
Okay, so in terms of solvency requirements, I don't think that's going to change anytime soon.
Okay.
Obviously, we had the implementation of Solvency II a couple of years ago, and although the Bank of England did state that companies had a 20% higher chance of breaching its solvency capital requirements under the new regime, and there is a new UK committee being set up to try and rehaul the EU directive, I don't really see that there's going to be much in change of solvency requirements in Gibraltar locally.
Okay.
But in terms of the industry and restructuring, I think it's very important to note that since Solvency II was actually took effect, there obviously has been a few insurance failures with the likes of LAM, Enterprise, and more recently MCE. And obviously this is not news to anyone in this room, it's no secret. But what I can say is obviously that from Kroll, we've obviously got offices in Bermuda, London and Gibraltar, and we've had the opportunity to actually advise on many of these cases. And obviously there's a big learning curve that there has been there. And there is definitely a space there for restructuring to definitely get more involved with insurance companies and the regulator, because what we want to really try and achieve is, rather than step in at the 11th hour when a company has already gone bust, what we really want to try and do is probably try and get in at an earlier date so that the company could actually have much more options than it would do when it reaches the insolvency proceedings.
Yes, well, I find it all very fascinating because I never even had an inkling to it, the number of different insurance products and services there were in the market. So just going over back to you, because we're going to start to wrap up this conversation. Any questions at this stage from anybody? No? Okay. So Lorraine, you are a strong advocate obviously for local insurance bodies and events. Could you discuss the importance of community involvement and collaboration of fostering professional development and growth within the insurance sector?
Yeah, absolutely. So my involvement with the professional bodies started about 10 years ago. I joined, I was the president of the Gibraltar Insurance Institute in 2017. And together as a team, as a council, we galvanized ideas together and really focused on developing an education and training program. Apart from that, the GII runs social events, so So really throughout with those two bodies, it really did help to develop and elevate my networking, my relationships throughout the industry, to the point where I have a network that's got a global reach, and that's purely through grit and determination and just making those connections, building those relationships. So I really think it is key in, especially in a small industry, a small jurisdiction like Gibraltar, where we do work 8 to 10 hours a day, but certainly it's important to make those connections, and there are faces in this room that I've only just met today, people that have been working in the industry 5 years. I've only just met them today. So you're always making those connections and always building and fostering those relationships. And of course through those networks then comes your professional development.
Yeah.
And with ultimately, like I said before, it really is a testament to the jurisdiction and in terms of upskilling, and then ultimately the reputation that the industry gains.
So Erica, you've been involved heavily with the CSR initiatives at Kroll. Tell me a little bit about those.
So Kroll are really committed to CSR globally, and for those of you who don't know a lot about Kroll, Kroll has now been set up and has been evolving now for over almost 100 years. We've got our headquarters in New York and we operate across 140 markets globally. And we do have a global task force that work very shoulder to shoulder across all the communities and trying to have as much impact as we can. And back in 2021, we actually appointed our Chief Impact Officer, who's been just making inroads in that respect. But what I would like to obviously say today, that obviously since we set up only 2.5 years ago in Gibraltar, our very small team has already had such an impact in our local community. Back last year, we organized a cycling marathon in Parliament that was supported by the Mayor of Gibraltar and Robus as well. That was the second mention for the day. And we managed to raise funds in aid of the Edie Foundation, which is obviously a local charity helping families in need. We've also got a very athletic team running marathons and raising money for the Society of the Blind in the UK. But a lot of work that we've done in the past as well in the last year is obviously we've partnered with our UK offices, and we've been offering refurbished high quality laptops to our local schools, which have targeted A-level students and students leading to the university, who are from a vulnerable background, and I feel that is just inspirational. So I'm actually quite honoured to be leading on that respect.
Fantastic. I'm going to add Nicholas again on the spot. He's just raised 10,000, 11,000?
About 11,000.
About £11,000 for
gypsums.
just him and his wife.
For those of you who haven't heard of Gypsums is a great charity. It supports the community for people with mental health issues, addiction issues, and it supports their support network as well. So it's a great cause.
Yeah, we're very lucky in Gibraltar, I have to say that. So, okay, my final question of the evening. Obviously, I love to talk about startups, I love to talk about community building, and I love to put these networking events together. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been doing them for so long. But let's start with you, John. What are the unique benefits and advantages of operating in Gibraltar for the insurance sector, for both startups and established insurance companies? And we'll just go down.
Okay, I think for us it's absolutely got to be the network of professional people here, some of which are in the room. We've got fantastic knowledge here, but importantly it's access to the regulator. Very quick story, we had a CEO over a few weeks ago from a very large UK insurance company. We were able to arrange a dinner meeting with two senior people from the regulator at short notice. He came away from that dinner saying, how did you do that? We said, we do that all the time. We've got a very good relationship with the regulator. He said, I can put a request into the PRA in the UK. It goes into a hopper. 5 weeks later, I get a response from a random person, and it's usually unsatisfactory. He said, I just can't believe this happens. But that's an example of the traction and the relationship we have over here and how we can get things done. And that is unknown anywhere else. And that's just a massive advantage.
Lorraine?
Yeah, I agree with that. Well, for me, it's I just want to make a couple of points. So I think sorry, can you hear me? The access to the passporting, freedom of services facility since 2001. I think that has really made a huge difference to conducting business and insurance business or business in financial services in Gibraltar. It's really driven the industry to excel, and there's certainly a lot of room for growth there. And the other key point that I want to make, and this is from an educational knowledge training aspect, that the University of Gibraltar have partnered with the Chartered Insurance Institute. They run the Certificate of Insurance, which is the first level in insurance qualifications. And you can only in Gibraltar, you can qualify within 6 months. In the UK, it takes 11 to 12 months to qualify. In Gibraltar, through the Gibraltar Insurance Institute, we did manage to agree a fast track training. So little plug for the university there, but it is really key to upskilling the jurisdiction, and that's because they can do it in 6 months.
That's fantastic, and I think Nadine is going to add something to that.
Thank you. That's correct. And also the diploma. The diploma you can do it in a year as opposed to 2 years as well, so it's all fast tracked as well. And that's initiative GII in collaboration with us. So it's both of them just to add to that. But thank you.
I also have to add that collaboration is power. It's something that in a very small community, sometimes it's very difficult. People tend to be a little bit territorial. Here at Startup Grind, we are all about collaboration. That's the only thing we do. We try and get people together in a room, and I see so many amazing faces here of people who have already worked together and I've seen so many cool things happen. We've got recruiters, IT companies, you name it, we've got it. So when we finish this conversation, it's about to finish, all I ask is have your drinks, network, talk to each other, work together, because collaboration is everything. Erica.
Definitely, thank you, Denise. So I'm going to keep this quite short and concise. So my views on what the advantages are is that obviously speed to market, access to the regulator, an incredible talent pool that we've got, an incredible tax regime, and obviously the weather and the people.
Here.
Anything left, Nick?
My main point, which I'll emphasise and I've already mentioned, is that we have access to the UK market.
Yeah.
That is very, very unique, and you can't oversell that. It's very unique. I wanted to follow on a little bit on just a couple of points to any startup. So if you're not an insurance company, if you're an individual who's got a business idea, a model which is underutilized in Gibraltar, which is very effective in the UK for anyone with a business idea in insurance with entrepreneurial spirit, is the AR model.
Okay.
So appointed representative, where you can work with an insurance intermediary and work under them to develop a business plan, a business model. I think we need more entrepreneurs in Gibraltar, develop, and with access to the UK market, the sky's the limit, or the UK the limit.
So I'm going to surprise somebody who's here today. He didn't know that I was going to tell everybody, but I thought it was important because there's somebody here who's been nominated for the Young Achiever Award at the British Insurance Awards 2023, and this is held by Insurance Post at an event that showcases innovation and achievement. He joined our community in February. He's awesome, and I wanted to congratulate him. So today, Harish Pasala, who's right there, you deserve a big round of applause. Well done, congratulations. you know, for those who haven't been to our events before, you kind of get the gist. We're happy people. We want to push Gibraltar forward always. We want to work together, and we just want you to enjoy the sessions. So thank you so much to our panelists, to our attendees, and now enjoy some drinks and canapes. Thank you to my team.